This is going to be all about the Squier Classic Vibe 50s Strat. And you can see it's quite an impressive looking instrument, and definitely based on that kind of famous guitar like Hank Marvin played. All gold hardware, see the gold tuning pegs and the gold tremolo block. This is Everything Guitar. It's a nice guitar, but it does need some setting up. In this video, I'm going to tell you what I did to get this playing a little bit better, because I can guarantee you straight out of the box, the tremolo arm did not work. Now, for those of you who aren't so bothered about a tremolo arm, you know, you're going to be using it that much, or you're worried about it knocking out of tune or anything. If you set these up correctly, they can work. That was my first goal anyway, was to set the tremolo up. So what I'm going to do is go through the things that I think improve the instrument, and it may make this a worthwhile purchase for those of you not wishing to buy a Fender version. We'll go through the specs first. It's a poplar body, maple neck, trying to get that on camera. You can see it's definitely got a nice look. Now the neck shape is a C shape neck, and more about the neck later, because there is a little trick you can do. Because when you buy this guitar, when you try it in the shop, you'll feel that the neck is really sticky, and that's to do with the finish they've used. The scale length is typical Stratocaster, 25.5 inches, which is 648 millimeters. The radius is a 9.5. You won't be able to see it like that, but if you can imagine the curve on the fretboard is a 9.5, so it's curving away just a little bit, not as much as the original vintage, which would have been 7.25, so that would have been a much greater curve. So by Stratocaster standards, this is fairly standard for the modern day era. It's got 21 frets, so goes all the way up to a C sharp. The nut is a bone nut. I'd rather have bone than plastic. The nut width, 1.65 inches, 42 millimeters. That is standard again. Sometimes with USA Strats, you'll get them at 43, so you can get a little bit wider. That's an absolute fraction. The neck feels quite slim. I prefer wider necks, you know, I'm guilty of that, but this one's not too bad. It's certainly playable. On to the pickups. They're Fender designed Alnico pickups. They're really nice pickups. So for the money, you know, what you're paying for this, I think that's quite good value to actually have Alnico pickups. I'm playing absolutely 100% clean now. That's the rear pickup, front pickup. middle pickup. In between, that's these two. These two. So that's the rear pickup. Middle pickup. Front pickup. In between these two. These two. A feature that I really like about this guitar is on the bridge pickup, you have got a separate tone control, and you get that on the Jeff Beck model. And here, when you go, so what you've got when you're on the rear pickup, that's a 10, that's an 8, 6, 5, 3, 2, 10. Now on the middle pickup, the tone control works. The middle, this tone control here will work for these two. So that's 10, 8, 6, 5, 3. And the same on the front pickup, and do the same thing. 10, 8, 6, 5, 3. So the bridge here, obviously it's a gold hardware bridge, and it's got the 6 saddles, vintage style synchronized, so very traditional. And setting them up is a little bit of an art, as is, you won't be able to see it here, but I've taken pictures where the springs are. Again, bit of an art if you do want your tremolo arm to work. Now, if you don't want your tremolo arm to work and you want to plant it on the body, you will need to be messing around with the springs and the claw here, and you will also maybe want to be messing around with the 6 screws here. But you will need to set this up anyway, because when it comes out of the factory, or certainly my one, wasn't really set up for whammying at all. It was set up in a very, very strange way, and I wouldn't recommend it at all. More on that later. Now the tuning pegs, if you're used to nice sounding tuning pegs, nice feeling tuning pegs, I should say, these are not the best in the world. The purists amongst you might want to change those out. By the time you've upgraded the pegs, and if you're looking for a different type of bridge, let's say, I don't think you need another bridge, but or certainly with the strings that I've tried and the setup that I've got, I'm yet to be convinced that a bridge is going to be a good purchase, and I'm still yet to be convinced that of replacing the pickups either. So now on to what I have done with this instrument that I think makes it play much, much better. So if you are a tremolo arm user and you want to get a whammy going with this, you won't be able to get it the way they've set it up stock. So this is what I did anyway. Firstly, I've adjusted the claw so I could get the tremolo block at an angle. Now you see this on the Jeff Beck Strat, and anybody talking about the way Jeff Beck sets up his Strats. So it's something roughly like this. You set the claw up at a slight angle, and what you're looking for is to be able to pull the tremolo arm up a semitone on the 12th fret harmonic. That's on the first string. Now on the B string, you're trying to pull it up roughly about a tone, and then on the G string, you're trying to pull it up roughly a minor third. So it's something like that. Once you've got that in that ballpark, that's the way I set it up anyway. And then I've got the just make sure the block is not sitting on the body, because you won't be able to float this otherwise. And then you're looking with the claw, you're moving it, you're kind of loosening it, you know, until it starts to do this. Now the one problem that you will have is that the springs that they put in these are very, very stiff. What I did is I purchased a Fender USA claw and spring set, readily available. I got mine from Thomann in Germany, not too expensive. What I did was I replaced the 3 springs. There are 5 rungs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I kept to the 1, 3, and 5 and kept them parallel, 1, 3, and 5, but I just changed them for USA springs. You're going to really, really struggle to get any whammy action with the stock springs. They're just far too stiff. The second thing is, doing this really close, the 6 screws here. The trick to setting these up is pretty much screw in. So going from the top, you want the 5th string, the 4th, 3rd, and the 2nd, the screws above those, 2, 3, 4, and 5, you want them screwed in so they are touching the bridge. I get it to kind of just start to bite, and then I just release it just by an absolute fraction, just so they are just sitting there and just touching the bridge. And then what I do with the outer 2, I had them out about 1 complete turn, screwed them into so they touch the bridge. So then I went to 1 complete screw turn. So as you're looking at the crosshead of the screw, you're just trying to make it go round till it goes back to where it was again, you know. So then, and I have tried to take some pictures of this. It's very difficult to see. In fact, nearly impossible. but they are just both off the body, and you can see a little bit of space. You could probably get your thumbnail in there. Yeah, you can get your thumbnail just underneath that screw. So that's what you're looking for, is to release those two by the same amount, by one complete turn, and then you'll start to find that that whammy starts to work. And then it's a question of sorting the claw out, having it at that angle, but then you just move it so you've got the right amount of tension. Now with the stock springs, you almost need them, so they're about to come out the body. You know, you've got the screw, you've unscrewed it, whereas with the USA ones you can afford to have them into the body for a bit more security. What some people do is they put five springs in them. The ones that aren't interested in using a trem, they just put 5 springs in them. So you know, if you're going to do that, keep the stock springs and then put another 2 in them, and then deck it as well. Lastly, and this is the one that I think is really important, the neck. It was sticky as anything. It really sticky. So here's what you do if you've ever got this problem with these sort of lacquered necks. It's a very simple thing, and everybody can do this. You get 400 grit sandpaper, like a wet and dry type thing, and 400 grit, and you just rub it just very gently. You know, it's not the sort of thing you can really mess up, because you won't be able to see that I've rubbed this down. You can probably just see that it's gone quite matte. If you look at, say, there's the body, the look of the body, and you can see it's quite gloss. Well, now look at the neck, it looks quite matte. So all I've done is 400 grit and just gently gone along the grain, one direction, just making sure that it's quite even all the way along, and then just looking for any gloss along here. What you do is just get a very slightly damp cloth, just wipe off the excess, and then just do it by feel. See if you can feel any of that stickiness anywhere all the way up to here. Just be careful not to donk the body unless you want to relic yours, or you can take the neck off if you're confident. A lot of people would leave the neck on and just do up to a sensible amount, and then if you're ever that sort of person that takes the neck off, then just wait until you've taken the neck off and then just do the rest of it. So I just went up, just up to about here. I don't think it devalues the guitar. If anything, it increases the value of the guitar, because if you decide to sell yours, when people play it, they'll think, oh, this neck feels really nice. You know, so it'll increase the value of your second-hand instrument. And it's still got those 9-gauge strings on it, which isn't my string of choice for this kind of instrument. I would be having 10s or 11s, just more for the style. The way the nut has been cut, I mean, it's been cut efficiently. You won't be able to see this, I don't think, that well, but you can probably here see the clearance between the 6th string and the 1st fret. So there is some daylight there. It could have been cut lower if you are a fan of that sort of thing. I think I would go slightly lower on the nut. I think all across the board, I would take the nut slots down very slightly. I think for the price, to leave the guitar completely stock, I think is probably the ideal scenario. I can't see too much point spending a lot of money on something like this. So for me, this is quite a good instrument, really. For something that's not that expensive. Now, I purchased this in August of 2022, and it cost me £399. Doesn't include a case, so all it includes is the tremolo arm, and that's it. Now, in conclusion, I think for the money, it's a good instrument. if it's £399, if it included a really, really good setup, you know, it's going to push the price up. You know, you think of that extra time that the people in the factory would spend on the instrument. So my recommendation is, if you're thinking that it's going to save you money and you need it set up for a particular thing, then you know, unless you're good at doing these things yourself, you know, factor that in terms of your costs. The only other slight bugbear is that the tuning pegs aren't as solid as I would like, and it's the sort of thing that I would notice every time I played the instrument. They just feel cheap. I'm certainly going to find out when I change the strings to say 10s or 11s. I may find out that I might need more mass on the bridge block to compensate. I don't know yet, so I'm hoping that it should be all right. I mean, if it's all right with 9s, just a bit flappy. Maybe you like that sound, you know, but it's just for me, it's just a little bit flappy. So good for some things, not good for others. Actually, very good value, really. For me, I'd give it, what would I give it out of 10? I'd give it 8 out of 10. When I played it, I kind of guessed, oh yeah, it does need a setup, you know, and I'm sure I can work with the 6-point trem. But now, when I say 8 out of 10, it plays really, really well. The pickups sound good. Now it feels like a 9.5 out of 10. It feels a lot better. I hope that helps. And just remains for me to say, please do leave a comment if you enjoyed the video, and tell me if you own one or you're thinking about buying one. It's always nice to hear people's stories. I do get that on other videos with other guitars. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.